here with Pat Sullivan. He is CEO and part of the founding family at Dynamic Dies. Hi, Pat. How are you today?
Good, Julie. How you doing?
I'm great. So, your family is at the core of Dynamic Dies. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about the history and how it's so connected to the Sullivans?
Okay, great. So really like to start with my dad and growing up and how he got involved in the company. So as a child, probably between 8 and 10, my dad grew up in Germany, was in a foster home and got shipped, if you want to say, to the United States between, like I said, the ages of 8 and 10. So he came over to the US with his brother. It was just him and his brother. They were about the same age. And they came to New York, the story you hear about in all your history books, to the Statue of Liberty in New York. Came there, got adopted through the Catholic Charities, and then grew up in Finland. I think that shaped a lot of what my dad, his philosophy on business. So fast forward, he was working for a competitor. He wanted to start his own company, had a partner at the time. They each took part of it, developed business plans, went to 5 banks before they got approved, and in 1971 started the company. Started in a garage. Like I said, it's the all-American story where he came to the U.S., got his education, started the company, and then built upon that. And so we've moved, grew through from 71 till now. We've gone through many buildings, added locations. But I think the core of all this is the feeling of family. I think my dad, growing up, didn't have a lot of that in the beginning years. He was in a foster home, but I think as he came here and developed family, that is the essence of what Dynamic Dies is about, is family and keeping that culture.
That is the story that I think a lot of families can relate to, that American dream piece. And they have, these members of their families, a couple generations. And yours is, your dad was the first generation to come through Ellis Island and see the Statue of Liberty, and really carve out for him a chosen family through a business and with the family that he had here. How is that legacy that he started with Dynamic part of what you give to your customers?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, part of what we do, I believe in honesty, and everyone here does too. Honesty, respect. So, with our customers, we want to develop relationships. We just don't want to be delivering cutting dies and printing plates. We really want to get to know people and what they're about, what their expectations are, and where they want to go. And then we like to develop those relationships from there and get them to know more than just their customer service rep, more than just their sales rep. We want them to know the whole of Dynamic Dies. One of the biggest things I enjoy, and I think customers enjoy, is having them come to our company and do tours, because the people on the floor are very active in those things. They like to explain what they do. They're proud of what they do. So we like to incorporate that into everything we do.
I agree, because when visiting, I learn something new, whether it's at your headquarters in Holland, right outside of Toledo, or your digital plant in Indianapolis. It's that warmth and that care. It doesn't matter geographically where we are. It's right. Really rooted in the spirit with Dynamic. So what is something you are excited about in the future?
Well, the big thing now is, one thing about being our family culture is a lot of times we keep employees a lot of them from the beginning of their career to the end of their career. So right now we're somewhat in a phase, and have been going through a phase of where a lot of our, I'm not going to say original, but very employees that were here from the beginning are starting to retire. So it's exciting right now because we're infusing the younger generation into what we're doing, getting them the technical knowledge they need so we can move forward as an organization and have that implanted. So it's here, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, those people are the ones leading the organization and infusing in them, what we're all about. So it's an exciting time for us for that.
Yeah, no, it really is. And to know that it's a place where you can grow your career. So you could start on the shop floor and end up in stakeholder meetings, making the decisions to the future of the company.
Right.
Being in business since the 70s, 53 years almost, there's been a lot of changes. You've weathered a lot of storms, with the multiple recessions and COVID happening. What are some of the adaptations as a business you've had to do in order to
Yeah, in recent times, I mean, the biggest change obviously for all of us was, I think, COVID and when that hit. And I mean, one big thing we did is everyone who could work from home, we sent them home to work from home. We developed an electronic system so we could stabilize what we were doing and make sure everyone could do their job to the best of their capability. As we came out of it, a lot of people liked working from home. So one big challenge has been we have a lot of people working off-site, and we've had to adapt to that. And the biggest thing with that is how do you keep that family culture and have people that are here and not here? And that's been a challenge for us in figuring out how do we keep them together, which they have done very well on their own, talking to each other. So that's been a huge adaptation for us. And the second one is getting, people interested in the industry and getting young people here and involved in what they're doing, which, all of us have that struggle of finding the right people, you would say, for the job. And we've been successful to a big extent of finding the right people who embrace our culture, embrace what we're about, and stay with us and are hopefully going to develop into the next generation of dynamic dyes.
It's true. I mean, innovation is a big part, and adapting to the market's needs and to the workforce is a huge part of what you guys do there with the HD backing, flex mounts, the digital component that you have that's a great option for small batch printing for box houses. All of these steps are how the business side adapts. And then your remote workforce is another adaptation you do that way, and instilling that culture. I think a lot of leaders could learn from you, Pat, on how to keep teams together and keep moving forward, especially with these changes and weathering storms that are thrown at you outside of your control. We've talked about as our competitors have consolidated, they lose that personal touch, and that is a high priority too.
Absolutely. And, a big part of that's what spurred a lot of our innovation is listening to our customers, listening to what they're having troubles with, what we can make better, and then taking that back to the table for us. So we're focusing in on what the customers need, not what necessarily, I'm going to say what we want, but it's what they need to make their jobs easier and better for the future and moving forward. So I feel that that's driven almost all of our innovation is finding out, like I said, getting that relationship with the customer so we can have open conversations about what's possible, what's not possible, and then us bringing that back to the table and working with the customers along the way to move us forward. So that's been a key part of where we've gone.
Exactly. I mean, in previous conversations, I just talked to Jeff about this, and I'll put the link in the comments below. But the flex mounts, in the past, they'd have to buy a new plate, and great for dynamic dyes. We're making money on that, but it's not great and convenient for the customer. So being able to provide them with a service that you're creating, it's a win-win, because your customers will know that you do truly care about them.
Absolutely. And, we've developed a technical team, which we explicitly have out there to visit customers, go to customers, help solve problems, and then they bring the things back to us along with our sales force. They're bringing these things to the table, and we have open conversations about where we should go next, what's most important, and what's going to be the biggest bang for the buck for our customers. So
it's really a partnership. I mean, you are there helping, boots on the ground in their facilities, seeing where you can troubleshoot and make their life easier with your team.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I think drives us is, the family culture, the being honest and upfront with people to say, there's things we can do, there's things we can't do, and say from our perspective and from the customer's perspective, we have that internally also. So we can bring that to the table when we're having the conversations internally, which has been a huge help to us. I mean, it's been fantastic.
You're all speaking the same language. You're lockstep
Absolutely.
together. In the next 10 years, what you're looking forward to the most for Dynamic Dies?
The biggest thing, as I spoke from the beginning, is, I want to keep the legacy of how my father started the company, and the culture of that obviously is number one on my list. So being able to keep that family culture. I mean, the other thing is, how are we going to grow? How are we going to make it better for our customers? And finding that innovation and what is the next big thing that's out there is essential. I feel like we have a great team, a good group of people who are going to bring us forward 10 years from now.
Pat, thank you so much for your time today. And I am so excited to find out what you're going to be working on next and to see the future of innovation with Dynamic Dies.